You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I'm your host, Steph. It is Friday, February 9th. I am here live from Las Vegas, getting ready for the Super Bowl. And so joining me today for this final preview of the season is Laurie Fitzpatrick. Laurie, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm excited for the game. I got my bets in. I got the turkey in the oven. I'm ready for the food. I'm ready for it all.
The turkey in the oven. Okay. On that note, like, what's your favorite Super Bowl food or snack?
Dude, I love me some buffalo chicken dip. So
okay,
I don't know, man. It's just like and I make some pretty good, buffalo chicken dip too. So make it right in the air fryer. Whew, it's delicious.
Okay, I respect that. Yeah, I'm more of a like pizza gal. I like nachos too. A 7-layer dip. That's always classic.
7 layers.
Yeah, I mean, you need to try that if you need to try it if you haven't yet.
Is that just the name? It really has 7 layers? That's crazy.
Yeah, it has 7 layers. But shout out everyone who's joining us in the live chat right now. Technic Chic says, love the shirt. I had to wear the shirt because I'm like, I gotta manifest this. We gotta manifest it. So I'm wearing the shirt for the good vibes, the good juju. Appreciate you guys. Jason says, ask the questions with Bosa's voice. That would be a really long episode, I think. So
yeah, I'm not gonna forever.
I'm not gonna do that today. But Jason, thank you for joining. As always, I mean, we're gonna start this show off talking about some of the injuries. If I get my slides pulled up here, bear with me.
I'm sure the internet isn't as good in the hotel room as it is at your house.
Is it a little fuzzy?
I mean, no. I mean,
okay.
Well, at your house, it's super clear and crisp. It's just not as crisp, but so far the connection seems good though, so that's what matters.
Okay, because I actually do have a lot of issues with my internet back home. So to me, the running joke is
besides that one day,
kind of no, I've had so many issues, Laurie, like you have no idea. But but yeah, hopefully I stay here, and if I'm a little fuzzy, all good. Just part of being in a hotel part. So here, let's figure this out. There we go. All right, so the injuries for this game, I mean, it's a pretty short list here, but there are 2 big injuries for the Chiefs that I feel like not a lot of people are considering enough. On offense, their starting left guard, Joe Thuney, is out for this game, which means it's going to be Nick Allegretti that will be starting in his place. Per PFF, he did allow 4 pressures, 3 hurries, and a sack in 52 pass blocking snaps against the Ravens in the AFC Championship game. And he's going to be lining up against Javon Hargrave for the most part. And Hargrave hasn't recorded a sack since week 16 against the Ravens, but I don't know. I'm liking this matchup for the 49ers a bit.
Yeah, dude. And we cannot overlook Joe Thuney. We cannot overlook that. I think that's big. And I mean, maybe McKinnon being questionable isn't as big, but yeah, I think that this is gonna be a chance for Nick Bosa for sure.
But I mean Bosa and Hargrave. But if they want to work in some stunts and have like Nick Bosa rush from the inside, they can do that as well. So I think they're gonna have some options for them available in this game. Now, the other big injury on the Chiefs side that I want to talk about, and it's not listed here because he's placed on IR. Former Niner and now Chiefs pass rusher Charles Omenihu. He was placed on injured reserve 2 days ago. after suffering a torn ACL early in the AFC Championship game. And this is big because if you look at, the splits for this defense and their pressure and sack rates, when Charles Omenihu was with them versus not. Remember, he spent, I think, the first 6 weeks of the season suspended, so that's why they were without him. And as you can see here, the Chiefs had the 6th best pressure rate and the 3rd highest sack percentage when they had Charles Omenihu versus when he wasn't there, they had the 15th pressure rate and 16th sack percentage in the NFL in that span. So to me, this is huge, and that's why I'm like, people aren't really mentioning this enough, and I think it's because they were still able to get past the Ravens without Charles Omenihu, which is okay. Yeah, that's impressive, but I think going up against this 49ers team, not having him, I think is going to be huge.
Yeah, no, in his last game, he had a 88 grade in the pass rush. So,
Yeah.
so honestly, he's definitely making an impact. He had a sack, so it's definitely something you can't overlook. And I think that I think it's kind of funny that he's not on the injury report, and I don't think that is something that normally goes on the injury report if somebody's going to be out for a long period of time. But at the same time, it's kind of like it messes with you because you can't forget about it, and it is a big deal.
Yeah, and I think just because he's on IR, like they don't have to have him on the injury report. But yeah, I think that's pretty big. And for the 49ers, the only player that's on their injury report is Kalia Davis. And the reason that he's on IR currently, they haven't activated him yet. He's still in that 21-day window. So we'll see if he gets brought up before the game. But I mean, this is big for the 49ers on the injury front. But let's get into the favorable matchups. Man, this is weird because I've actually started all of these preview episodes talking about the cautious matchups first. And for some reason, like I wrote it down like the favorable ones first and then the cautious ones. So I hope this isn't some like like I didn't mess something up in the simulation by me doing this. So I'm just going to roll with it. And we're going to go with the favorable ones first. So let's take a look at the 49ers defensive line against the Chiefs offensive line. And I want to start with Nick Bosa. All right. To me, this is a favorable matchup. You mentioned him, Laurie. And the reason that I like this matchup, I mean, one of the things he said when he was asked about the Chiefs tackles is they hold a lot. And that was one of the controversial no calls in the 2019 Super Bowl. And I don't know if he really meant to say it as a way to have the refs be aware of it going into this game, or have it be something that they just can't ignore because Nick Bosa publicly said they hold a lot. So now, they kind of have to acknowledge it. But yeah, I mean, he wasn't lying at all. Since 2019, including the playoffs, Jawan Taylor and Donovan Smith rank number 1 and number 3 in holding penalties, respectively. And since 2020, including the playoffs, Jawan Taylor leads the NFL in pre-snap penalties. So, if the refs kind of heard what Nick Bosa said and they feel inclined to maybe, put the laundry out on the field a little bit more, that can help Nick Bosa, I think, in this case.
No, and I think so too. But it is something that I noticed as when he was on the Jacksonville Jaguars, Jawan Taylor, he was their starting tackle. So he does jump, pretty early, when, right before the ball is snapped, because he's trying to get ahead because he's a little bit slower, in my opinion, when it comes to, to blocking for his quarterback. And he can let up some huge sacks, and he has in the past. So I just think, yeah, maybe it's something where Nick may have said that just so the refs are cautious about it. But I agree with it, and I think it's spot on. So maybe it's a little bit of a head game, but at the same time, like he's not lying. So
Yeah.
that's I'm just glad that he said it. He's got to be like somebody said it, because it's the truth. So they're gonna be watching him extra hard, and he's definitely gonna get some holding pen or no, some false starts. I know it
Yeah.
just because he does it. He does it every single time. Like it's kind of crazy. And there were a
But
lot of people, like a lot of Jacksonville fans, that were just like, he's literally the worst tackle. Like people wanted to get rid of him for a while. So I was like really surprised when the Chiefs got him, and now it's like their starting tackle when like he blew so many, like he let up so many sacks. Like it was just ones where it's just like, how do you let that guy get by you? It just seemed like he was like super slow when it came to like hand movements and getting off the line. So
yeah, and he has a 48.6 grade on PFF. But like we
for the
said,
pass
he
rush, I mean
no, I
for
think
like
just as a
pass
overall,
blocking. Oh,
yeah,
overall.
overall offensive grade on PFF. And Nick Bosa is in the 90s, so definitely a mismatch there in my book. And again, like we said earlier, I think Nick Bosa is going to be huge in this game and other factors as well, because they could get creative, run some stunts, have him maybe even line up in the interior. They've done that before in the season where they had Bosa and Young rush from the interior. They haven't done that in a while, I think, but maybe we
Hmm.
see it again in this game to just get a matchup with Allegretti or something like that. So yeah, just something to keep an eye on. I like Nick Bosa in this game, and he had 2 sacks in the NFC Championship game, so look out for that. And, we're going to get on Mahomes a little bit more, but the reason that I think Nick Bosa and the 49ers defensive line needs to be big in this game is because Mahomes this season has actually, like, his numbers have taken a dip when he's been under pressure. In the playoffs, Mahomes has completed just 45.2% of his passes, 6.9 yards per attempt, no touchdowns when pressured, compared to 77.8 completion percentage, 7 yards per attempt, 4 touchdowns when he isn't pressured. So that's just the importance of getting pressure on Mahomes. And when Baltimore got pressure on him, he was 5 of 11 for 64 yards, and I don't think he had any touchdowns when under pressure. So again, just speaks to the importance of it.
That's interesting because I think it was like 2 years ago where it was the complete opposite. It was basically like
Exactly.
an unwritten rule, like don't pressure or don't
Yeah,
blitz, or pressure Mahomes because it's just like he's gonna find that open guy.
exactly. Which what in the
But
past, like, that made him
you had
so hard to
Tyreek.
defend
You had
against.
Tyreek though.
That's
Remember?
part of it
And
too.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
kind of mention that a little bit when we talk about that Kelsey and Mahomes connection. So
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely big. I also, so I know I'm talking about the pressures here, but also blitzing. His numbers do take a dip when he's blitzed this season as well. So kind of like in what we're talking about here. Interesting enough, like Steve Oakes doesn't blitz that much, but just something to keep an eye on. I mean, this is the Super Bowl. Sometimes teams will break some tendencies to get the matchup that they want. And in this case, they might look to be aggressive in certain moments to put that pressure on Mahomes. And, that seems to lead to some incompletions for him. So something to keep an eye on in this one.
yeah, I mean, well, I don't know how much the drops factor into that, because it just seems like his wide receivers this year are
That
just
too.
dropping a lot more passes.
In key
But
moments too, it seems like. So yeah, that's a really good point. Okay, so my next favorable matchup for the 49ers is CMC and Debo. You have to want to run the football in this game. Like, there's every indication that that's like the biggest key. It has to be the biggest key because it's your most favorable matchup in my eyes, going up against this Chiefs team. And one of the things that I think the Chiefs are going to want to do, as most teams have tried to do this season, is they're going to try to load the box, and they're going to try to force Brock Purdy to have to win the game, right? Like that was their game plan in 2019 against Jimmy Garoppolo. They're going to at least try it and try to get Brock Purdy into that same type of game. But Christian McCaffrey is the difference maker this time around because against heavy boxes, he's still averaging 4.8 yards per carry. That is 8th in the league, and 54.5% success rate. That's 2nd in the league. And I mean, even in a light box, of course, his numbers are even better. 7.2 yards per carry. That's 2nd in NFL. So, man, like he's kind of like one of those guys on the 49ers that's impossible to defend because however you slice it, he's still going to get his.
Yeah, wow. Once again, Steph's back at it again with the amazing shots. But that was like a damn Daniel type of mimic there. But I really have to sit here and look at it because like he really sees the 4th most heavy boxes. I wonder if that's like across the whole league.
Yeah,
Like the
I think so.
frequency. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty wild. And his success rate is 1st.
Mhm.
Like, wow, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, like I could just sit here and kind of look at those boxes. Wow, that's pretty nuts. 7th EPA against the light box. So, hey, I mean, what I think about CMC in this game is he's the factor. He's the X factor, I think, for the 49ers because when I look at the tackling, like when I look at that tackling on PFF for the Chiefs, they're like 15th, like 15th or 16th in defensive tackling, like against the run, which, if they're going to play man coverage, which they might do, it gets a Shanahan offense to kind of get Brock Purdy off his spot, then that's going to be deadly if they want to incorporate CMC a little bit more. Christian McCaffrey is going to have to be that guy this game. They're going to have to give it to him more than they want to, especially because you don't want Brock Purdy to make mistakes and make killer turnovers. So you want to make sure you put it in McCaffrey's hands. But I think mostly because the Chiefs aren't great at tackling. I mean, they're good, but at the same time, you just want to put it in your running back's hands, especially if they're going to run a nickel defense. So you can still kind of have a heavy box and then just, have more DBs out there. But when it comes to 21 personnel, the Chiefs they allow the 2nd most yards when they're going against that 21 personnel. And so I just think, they should kind of come out heavy, the 49ers, if they want to be able to get CMC kind of on a roll early. Just kind of pound them up the middle. I mean, that's just, I think that would be a way to kind of get the game going a little bit on the ground. Maybe they'll run some clock and maybe it won't be super high scoring, but you don't want to start off the game like how they have been starting out, where the second half they kind of had to catch up and get that win. It's like you don't want to have to do that in the biggest game of the year. You want to kind of get it going and get up early. So I just think Christian McCaffrey is going to be that guy that they're going to have to rely on early. To do that.
And I'm glad you mentioned the 21 personnel thing because I mean the 49ers run that. They ran it the 2nd most of any team behind only the Dolphins, right? And as we know, they have a lot of success with it. I know Mina Kimes also, or no, sorry, it was Dan Olvorski that brought up that 22 personnel could be something that the 49ers look to do a little bit more in this game because, the Chiefs have kind of struggled against that as well. They've allowed 5.2 yards per carry on running back runs on I believe 22 against 22 personnel, and that ranked 27th in the league. And they also have allowed 3.94 yards after contact per carry on those runs. That's 31st in the league. And another thing I wanted to point out, Chiefs have allowed 4.6 yards per designed run play on first down. That ranks 25th in the league. So running the ball, I think, in this game is going to be a really smart way for the 49ers to just not get behind the sticks or anything. Don't get in those 3rd and longs, because when you get into those 3rd and longs, that's when this Chiefs defense and Spagnuolo can really, sink their teeth into an offense, right? And they can just get really creative with what they do then. And it becomes pretty difficult for offenses to overcome that. So running the football is how you keep the game script favorable in my eyes. And like I said, I mean, CMC is just different. Debo is just different. So those are the guys that I would want to lean on in this game. And here's the what Mina Kimes was talking about on zone runs specifically. The 49ers are first in yards per carry. Kansas City Chiefs against zone runs are 31st in yards per carry allowed. So again, like this is a good matchup for the 49ers in this one.
And no, for sure. And I don't, and I definitely want to get into, like, I don't want to skip over, Brock Purdy being favorable, because I want to talk about how the Chiefs kind of use Chris Jones and on that defensive line. So I'm gonna
let's do it.
let you take
Let's
it.
get into Brock Purdy, because to me he's another favorable one. So this one's interesting because I am I think Brock Purdy's a favorable player, favorable matchup for this Chiefs defense, but it comes with a caveat, because obviously I do respect this Chiefs defense and what Spags has done. And I do acknowledge it could really complicate Brock Purdy's life, but I will explain why it's favorable for me. For one, if the 49ers are able to have success running the football, it's going to allow the 49ers to then work in some play action, and that should benefit Brock Purdy too. The Chiefs have allowed 65.9% completion rate, 7.9 yards per attempt, and 4.5% touchdown rate with the use of play action. And they've allowed 8 passing touchdowns off of play action as well, as opposed to 14 without. Purdy has 12 touchdowns to 2 interceptions off of play action. In the playoffs alone, he's 8 of 11 for 75 yards. Play action is a quarterback's best friend. So if it can complement the run game, again, this is a favorable game script for the 49ers if they can do both of these things.
Yo, that's so crazy. You're in Vegas right now, because like those sirens are just nonstop.
Dude, I know. It's like, welcome to Vegas.
Yeah. But no, I think the play action is important. And it's funny because like, I just saw an article not long ago on the Ringer how like Kyle Shanahan's kind of getting away from his type of offense, and he's just gonna have to go back to it, especially when you play against this Chiefs defense, where you're gonna want those linebackers to be back a little bit further. Because it's going to take a little bit longer for those plays to develop. And then what is that going to do? That's going to open up that space between the defensive line and the linebackers. And that's where Debo is going to just thrive, because he's going to run straight across the field, right across the middle. And if Purdy feels any pressure, he'll have that time to kind of get rid of it. And with those numbers, man, you're looking at 15th completion percentage allowed, against play action, 13th, 21st. Like, that's just, yeah, I don't know. You just have to go with that old school play action offense against this Chiefs team, because it's just, it's a layup. You got to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, it's going to be important for the 49ers to chip away, to just take what the defense gives them. And that's part of the reason why I like Brock Purdy in this matchup, because I think he's kind of learned how to do that over time. I think the game against Baltimore was a perfect example of him not really doing that. And after that, I think he's learned how important that is. Okay, they're taking that away. Well, I have CMC right here in front of me for like 5 yards. Let me just take that. It's okay. As long as you get anything positive, like you don't have to always have a big play, and you're definitely not going to have a big play against this Chiefs defense. I mean, highest success rate third highest success rate in the league. And what I want to highlight as well is they've allowed the fewest completions of 20 or more yards this season, and just 67.3 passer rating on deep passes that ranked 6th in the NFL. So you're definitely not going to get like a big explosive against them through the air. So don't even try it, right?
Yeah,
Like
but that plays right into their hand. I feel like that's perfect for the 49ers offense, because it's not like they're, running a Chargers type of offense where you got a guy with a huge arm. It's just I think it's going to be relied on yards after the catch. And I think somebody mentioned that in the chat. Yak is going to be that killer, and that's good that you're showing these stats, because I don't think that's going to be the way that they're going to win this game.
Yeah, exactly. So like the 49ers have to be comfortable with the check down game. They have to be comfortable with just taking a few yards at a time, if that's what it comes down to. You have to be very patient and not panic just because you're playing against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid on the other side, right? Like they have to stick with what I think and what I think, we all think. So all this data shows that it would work if they just stick to what they do best, and they check it down, get down in the field, even if it's slow, even if it's not sexy,
Throw those in routes.
Yeah. I mean, they got whatever works, man.
Pick apart that
really
defense.
Don't care.
Once that linebacker kind of takes that step back to kind of cut off the in route, because those corners are going to get beat by whoever. If they're playing man, they're going to get beat, and those linebackers are going to have to kind of step up and get into that throwing window. And if that's the case, that's where that check down is going to open up right away, right in between that space. So,
yeah. So, Brock Purdy, I think, has to take those opportunities when he sees them and get rid of the ball, quickly in this one. Dude, I wanted to highlight just how good the Chiefs defense has been against star receivers, and credit to Ladarius Sneed, who has, shadowed some guys throughout the season. Tyreek Hill had 62 yards in both of the games in which they played against Tyreek Hill this season. Davante Adams had 73 yards. That's the most they've allowed this season. And the second time that they played, he only had 4 yards. So, they've been pretty locked down on receivers. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 71 yards. Like, there's a list of guys, and for the audio listeners, I'll just list them, but they're all under 100 yards. Tyreek Hill, Davante Adams, Keenan Allen, A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DJ Moore, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs, 24 yards, 21 yards in 2 games that they've played against this Chiefs defense. So, again, it just speaks to how good they are on the back end. Their corners are awesome. I know last in the AFC Championship game, Flowers had 115 yards against this Chiefs defense, but that was only the third time they'd allowed an 100-yard receiver this year. So I'm not really expecting this to be, like I said, a big, like, explosive game for the 49ers. I'm not expecting a big play. I'm not expecting a big, like, Ayuk game, for example.
That's what I was
but
gonna
that's
say,
okay.
yeah.
That's okay. Chip away, get the easy checkdowns, take what the defense gives you. They're going to have to do that. Also, that's just a great way to keep the Chiefs from doing what they do best, which is blitzing, getting like, if you're in those third and long situations, they are going to blitz you. They're going to put you in unfavorable positions, right? And they're blitzing more than they have ever done. And they like to do it in those opportunistic moments. And they've been able to send their corners to blitz, especially in those condensed formations, which the 49ers run at the highest rate in the league. And, interesting enough, Kyle Shanahan was asked about this, like, why he prefers to run out of condensed formations. He likes the way that, it gives his receivers more room to work with, is kind of what he says. But I mean,
they hit that out route, they have more space.
But that's going to be the challenge, because the Chiefs, the way that they're going to attack it, is with blitzes. So if you better have a hot route or just, something, you better have an option.
When you play against, like, when you have a condensed offense, right, and you look at the defense, it's going to be easier to see those spaces when you move them apart because everyone's so close together. So you'll be able to see the quarterback. It makes it basically easier for the quarterback to see those windows and those holes when that wide receiver makes that move against that defender. You'll be able to see, okay, well, where is that window at? Is it going to be at that second, that first look, or is it the second look? So yeah, I mean, makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah, and people, kind of reiterating in the chat here, talking about Omenahue, that, Omenahue being out for the Chiefs is huge,
I don't think
think,
a
in
lot of
this
people are
game.
talking about it.
Exactly. So, if anything, I think it'll get the Chiefs blitzing even more against the 49ers, because if they're not getting enough pressure with, 4 or 5 guys or whatever, then they might feel a little more inclined to, bring in the blitz to put
To get it
pressure on
elsewhere.
Purdy. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. Which, if the 49ers can get the ball out quickly and Brock Purdy can, get the ball to his receiver, then it works in the 49ers' favor if that's the route they want to go. So, and just really quickly, like, I did want to talk about Brock Purdy against the blitz. His numbers this season in the regular season have been good, not as good in the playoffs, but in the regular season, he was second in completion percentage against the blitz, first in yards per attempt. His touchdown interception ratio was first against the blitz. Passer rating was first. Pass EPA was first. But in 2 playoff games, when blitzed, he has completed 56.5% of his passes, 7.9 yards per attempt. So the numbers have dipped, against the blitz. So that's why also I think, the Chiefs are going to feel probably comfortable calling some against Purdy.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about it all season. There was a point in the season where it was like, okay, well, he didn't do good against the blitz, but it was just like far few in between. Generally, against the blitz, he's been good. So,
yeah,
I'm not like that worried about it.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm more worried about Chris Jones.
Right. And I think also because the 49ers have to expect that, the blitz is coming. I'm sure they have a game plan, to counter it, for their offense. So we'll see what Kyle Shanahan cooks up. But another thing I wanted to point out. So look at this chart, right? And shout out Sumer Sports who put out this awesome big game breakdown. That's where I got a lot of these graphics. So credit to them. But here you see the passing production of the 49ers of different air yards in different parts of the field. And for the audio listeners, there's a lot of green. There's only 2 areas where, the 49ers are in the negative of EPA, and it's in the passes to the middle and right that are, at the line pretty much. So they're pretty much good everywhere, but I also want to show the Chiefs defense and what they're good against. So here you see a lot of red, some like neutral numbers. Let's just say you don't see too much green. Where you do see green, though, is in things behind the line of scrimmage. So within 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage or at the line of scrimmage. That's it. So again, like, this illustrates perfectly how the Chiefs aren't giving up a lot of big plays, certainly nothing over the top. And again, like, this shows that, okay, you can have the underneath stuff. That's pretty much what they have to give you. And, you should just be comfortable taking that. And when you have guys like Deebo Samuel and George Kittle who have the most yards after the catch per reception, lean into it, because you have the right guys who can make it work. If it's 3 air yards, who cares? I mean, you have guys who can make it a bigger play than it was originally.
Wow, look at that. Of course, 2 49ers and 1 Chiefs player.
And Rashee Rice. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, so that's a reason, basically, long story short, why I feel like Brock Purdy, this is like the perfect game for him, actually, because I don't feel like he's gonna have to do too much. He just has to put the ball in his playmakers' hands, and that's it. Like, I think
Let
if they
them make a
stick
play.
to that, exactly,
Mhm.
if they stick to that, I think it's gonna be a good day for Brock Purdy. But again, like there are some things I'm cautious about if they're unable to run the football, if they're unable to get into those, third and short situations, for example.
Yeah, I
But
mean, running is going to be the biggest thing, I think, for
yeah,
me.
exactly.
You can't have a game where you have to rely on, you know, I don't want to say that, but you can't have a game where you have to rely on Brock Purdy to win it. He's a team player. So I think, Christian McCaffrey is going to be that biggest piece, but it's more about, what kind of defenses are the Chiefs going to play? Are they going to play more of a man defense, or are they going to play more of a zone? I'm interested to see, which route they end up taking. Because I think, they'll want to play man to kind of get Brock Purdy like rattled. But at the same time, I think that'll work out better for the 49ers if they do end up going man. Just because their playmakers are better than the Chiefs playmakers on defense.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up as well, because here's the coverage breakdown of both teams. The Chiefs have the most success in cover 2 and cover 2 man. So again, if they stick to what they usually do, that's probably what the 49ers would see more of. The question is, do they veer away from that and maybe go into more zone looks and dropping more guys into coverage, because that's on tape too, that the 49ers have, or Brock Purdy has kind of like struggled with that a little bit more. So it'll be interesting to see how the Chiefs defense plans to attack the 49ers offense. But
Yeah.
it's a
Wow,
Super Bowl. I imagine there's counter, like, Kyle Shanahan has thought of all the counters, I would hope.
Yeah. I like that chart though. The cover 2 on there, I think that's going to be that's a big deal. Wow, I didn't realize that they see cover 3 the most. The 49ers, that's pretty crazy. I guess that's why the drag, works so well. Or why they use it so much, like when you have that mesh play call. That's interesting. But I think cover 2 is what the Chiefs are going to be running the most, and that's why I think those slants are going to be. So that's the success rate. Like, that's a good thing for the 49ers then.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, if they ran cover 2, they would just be shooting themselves in the foot. So, and they never run cover 3. Which is what the 49ers see the most. Wow, that's really interesting. And it's kind of like what they're the worst at when it comes to EPA. So if the Chiefs want to play them, well in terms of matchup, they'll want to run cover 3, but they literally run the least amount of cover 3 in the whole league. Like, that's crazy. Wow, this chart is really good.
Yeah.
I just took a screenshot.
No, seriously. So again, like sumersports.com, they have this awesome breakdown. It's so many pages, and it does this breakdown for both teams, offense and defense. So definitely check that out. I think you just have to like subscribe to their
Sweet.
their breakdowns, and then it gets emailed to you. But yeah, along these lines, Purdy has faced some more man coverage this season, or when he has faced man coverage this season. Small sample size, but he's 8 of 12 for 145 yards, 12.1 yards per attempt, and a touchdown. So again, yeah, it would play right into the 49ers' hands if that's the route that they want to go in this case. Let's get into the cautious matchups now. I want to start with the 49ers offensive line against the Chiefs defensive line, and I know you mentioned Chris Jones. I want to start with George Karlaftis, actually. In the playoffs, he's really taken off. Like, he has 15 pressures, 2.5 sacks in the 3 playoff games the Chiefs have played. Those are pretty good numbers, so he's definitely stepped up. Another guy that the 49ers have to account for. Chris Jones is a beast, but for whatever reason, his production has dipped in the playoffs. In the regular season, he had an adjusted sack rate of 6. That ranked first among interior defensive linemen. In the playoffs, his adjusted sack rate has been 1.2. And just for reference, the league average for interior defensive linemen on adjusted sack rate is 2.2. And his pressure rate has also dropped from 21.3 in the regular season to just 11.6 in the postseason. So I don't know if it's just like teams maybe accounting for him a little bit more, and maybe that could be why. But at the same time, you can't really assume that, you know, he's not going to have a good game in the Super Bowl, right?
You know what he said? He said that Carl damn, I'm not gonna say his name right. Karlaftis.
Yeah, no,
They said that he is taking Chris Jones' stats. So like there were a couple plays where like you look at the film and Chris Jones like got the sack and they gave him only a half a sack and they gave his boy another half a sack. And it was just like
literally taking his stats.
yeah, literally like taking it. So he might be playing a little bit better than what you think.
That's
Than
fair.
you know, like what's shown. Just because they're both there, they're both getting pressure. So, but
Yeah.
I think they run a pretty interesting, you know, like style or scheme, you could say. Like I was watching some film, you know, in their last game, and they would play some uneven looks where you know they would have, like let's say the center is here, they would have 3 defensive linemen on like basically one side and then one guy on the other side. And I think that may be a way that they're going to try to isolate McKivitz on the line. If you have, you know, 2 guys on the left or right side of him and you kind of isolate him with Chris Jones, that might be, you know, a bad matchup for him. So you just want to watch out for those uneven looks. And then it also gives them a better opportunity to kind of get stunts in and kind of wrap around the outside. When you have maybe one guy on one side, I feel he can kind of drop in, and then the whole team, the whole offensive line kind of like goes over because there was only one guy there, and then that leaves that one side open for them to kind of, you know, switch around and do that. So you just got to keep everybody stay home, everybody stay in your lanes, everybody do your job, don't overcompensate, don't give up the you know, don't give up the edge. All right.
Right, exactly. And I wanted to highlight a tweet that Johnny Dells, who I've had on my channel before, he mentioned this. Like, he's noticed watching KC tape that they show a bunch of different looks, but kind of like how Kyle Shanahan does, they kind of use it to gather information, right? And so they see how you play it, and then they kind of, you know, switch it up. And that's how they get some one-on-ones for Chris Jones. So that's something we could expect to see, I think, in this game as well. Again, like, you know, Spags is super creative, you know, with the way he runs this entire defense. So, yeah, I would expect the 49ers are going to see a lot of different exotic fronts from this Chiefs team.
Yeah, no, that's kind of cool. Somebody, yeah, exactly. That's what they do. Maybe try to get that running back to concentrate on one side. Then it kind of leaves maybe the other side wide open. So that's interesting.
Yeah. All right, more charts, and this goes with my next cautious matchup. It is Isaiah Pacheco against the 49ers run defense, because what we've seen from the 49ers run defense as of late has not been pretty. We know that. As far as effort and questions about effort, I expect effort to be there, all right? But that's not everything when it comes to these plays. You also have to have a good, you know, plan in place for a lot of different things. And the 49ers have shown on tape that they're struggling with outside runs. And so I'm expecting the Chiefs to go for the outside runs in this one. In the playoffs, opposing running backs going up against the 49ers have rushed 26 times for 180 yards. That is 6.9 yards per carry with 2 touchdowns on outside runs. That is just in the playoffs what the 49ers have given up on outside runs. So they're a lot better on inside runs. But again, like I think the Chiefs are going to want to exploit that against this 49ers defense and see that they're going to want to test that right away.
So, not that I disagree, but I think they do need to give effort. Like, okay, hold on. Let me rephrase that.
I'm not
No.
saying
Let me rephrase that. That's not what I meant to say. You're right. They're going to give effort this game. But I think that means more than like the scheme that they use. Because if it's outside runs, they need to step up and fill the gaps, fill the lanes.
Yeah.
And what does that take? That's straight up effort right there. They need the safeties to step up. They need to fill the lanes and get to the outside to push Pacheco inside. Because as soon as they get that outside lane, then there's nobody else there except the corner that's being blocked. Like, they have to get to the outside to push the play inside to their, like, where everybody is. That's the number one, like, thing that they teach you on defense. And, like, defense is more about heart than about scheme anyway. Like, especially when it comes to defending the run. So I think it's a huge, like, about effort. And yeah, dude, like, I was like arguing with someone today at work, about how much our boy needs to step up, Chase Young.
Yeah.
Man. So he was like, "Oh, Chase Young is one of my favorite players." I'm like, "Oh yeah, well, did you ask him about his no effort on that one toss to the outside where Gibbs just like, took over?" And we don't need to talk about that anymore, but the point is they need to fill those lanes. They need to step up. They need to play smash mouth football if they want to be able to stop Pacheco. Because look at that. Against a light box, like, he's horrible. Like, how's that even possible? It's because he's bouncing them to the outside.
Yeah, and
against the heavy boxes.
This Chiefs offense is different than it's been in years past. And, like, they're leaning on the ground game more than they ever have, even more so in the playoffs. In their 3 playoff games, Isaiah Pacheco's carried the ball 24, 15, and 24 times. Even though in the regular season, he never had a game where he rushed over 20. So they're definitely milking it in the playoffs. And so that's why I think it's even more important for the 49ers in this game, seeing as all these things that they showed on tape, like, Chiefs are going to try to do it. That, to me, that's going to be their biggest game plan is run Isaiah Pacheco, run him to the outside. If you can stymie that, then I think you can stymie this Chiefs offense. The Chiefs are 12-2 this season when Isaiah Pacheco finishes with at least 60 scrimmage yards. Interesting enough, they're 0-3 when he fails to reach that mark. So that's pretty big. Yeah, like I was pretty surprised about that, but that just goes to show you he's been a huge part of their success this season. Part of that has to do with the lack of, real weapons for the Chiefs aside from like Kelce, and Rice has come along for them, but Pacheco is how they're moving the football mostly.
Yeah. And it's really how they gain momentum, because it just seems like he's making plays when it matters the most. And just
he's a tough runner.
Yeah, and like, he really tears up that grass when he's running. It's so funny to watch. And like the 49ers just need to stop it, because he's just like so heavy-footed. Like, how's he able to get through? Like, once one guy is blocked, there should be another defender right there.
Yeah.
They need a game. Seems like they're not getting there. They're not getting there. So
one of the quotes from Kyle Shanahan was like, if you're waiting on the other guy or someone else to make the play, like, I'm trying to find the quote.
You're already
right now,
too late.
And
that was directed at Chase Young. It had to been.
Because
he let up when he thought that the dude was being tackled.
Yeah, it's true. So it was whenever you're expecting someone else to make the tackle, bad things happen. That is That is so true. Yeah. And it doesn't hurt to gang tackle anyway, especially when you're playing someone like Pacheco. Even if you do think, the guy in front of you has him, I mean, doesn't hurt to just for you to join in, because a guy like Pacheco, he doesn't go down easy. So definitely a huge, huge key for the 49ers is to stop that man. And if you can stop him, then I think it goes, a long way in stopping this Chiefs offense, including Patrick Mahomes and Kelce. And I want to talk about those two now, because to me, that's another cautious matchup for the 49ers. It's not just Mahomes on his own. It's not just Kelce on his own. It's the two of them together. They're so good, and they're just always in sync. It drives me nuts. It drives me nuts, whenever I have to watch the 49ers play against them, because it's frustrating, So I just wanted to first talk about Mahomes really quick. And I want to talk about how this offense has changed for them this year. All but 5 of Patrick Mahomes' passes were of 10 yards or less in the first 2 playoff games, and he averaged 5.59 air yards per attempt. Sorry. That was against the Ravens. Sorry. All but 5 passes were 10 yards or less against the Ravens, and he was averaging 8.05 yards per attempt in the first 2 playoff games. And that's kind of been the story for them all year, where like his average depth of target is like, I think, the lowest it's been for him all year. But also yards after the catch is, yes, he's exactly, Randy. He's number 1 in yards after the catch. And so that's kind of what their offense has become. Like, you want to talk about, you want to talk about dink and dunk. That is it. So it's kind of funny. We're having this conversation about like Purdy being some like game manager. Mahomes has kind of been managing this season. Not to say that he isn't
Except
like
when
this
it comes
superstar,
to
but
Kelce.
yeah, that is true. But yeah, other than that, like they kind of are okay with short yardage plays in the pass game, and that's why they run the football too, because they get a lot of chunk yards with that too. So to me, that's the biggest key. Mahomes hasn't passed for more than 262 yards since week 15. And he's only thrown for 300 yards in one of his past 12 games. So the thing about Mahomes is he takes care of the football, though.
Yeah. I mean, that has to do with being able to read defense too. But I think Randy poses a good question.
Why is Kelce always open?
And the answer is because he's not bracketed enough. He's not double teamed enough. He doesn't have
You don't
2
think
sets.
so?
No, not at all. Because the defenses get cocky and they think that, okay, we can just put one guy on. There were so many plays, scramble plays, against the Baltimore Ravens. He had 11 catches. You know how many of them? Well, I don't know the answer to this question. My rhetorical question I'm about to ask. You know how many of them it was single coverage, just one guy following him around? A lot of them just following him around like they're a lost puppy, because why is there only one? And that's what happened against the Jaguars when the Chiefs played them. They only put one guy on Kelce and he tore them up, because especially when you get to the scramble drill, all they need, Mahomes just needs to look at Kelce and it's like they know how this play is going to work out. You need more than one guy on him. Not enough teams are playing, are double teaming him. Maybe when it comes to like him going out like for routes, okay, we have a safety kind of, paying attention to him. But the most like it's most common when they connect is like when the play breaks down, or on curl routes. And the curl route is like right in between the zone between 2 guys. So it's like, oh, he was double covered. No, he wasn't. Okay. They're playing zone. He's not double covered. Like, come on.
Anyway.
Yeah, and Kelsey's so good at finding, the soft spots in the zone. He's so good at it, and it's like he's just doing whatever out there. Like, I don't even know if there's any structure most of the time to what he's doing. It's just like, just find the spot, and Mahomes is like, I will find you. and he
Yeah.
always does. And 49ers Throwback says the Bucks doubled him and it worked.
Yeah. See?
I think it would work even more this year because you look at
Who
the
else?
other. Yeah, exactly. Rasheed Rice. Maybe they activate Sky Moore in this game. I don't know, but like those are guys who haven't really proven to be as impactful as Travis Kelce has.
I mean,
And
yeah.
Yeah.
If they have to rely on, Marquez Valdez Scantling, then it's going to be a good night for the 49ers. Like, yeah, he makes MVS makes a good catch when it matters, but it's just like he made like two in the whole game, and like, yeah, one of them was huge, but it's just like relying on him as a number one wide receiver is just not going to happen. So you have to double team, and like, I don't know how it's going to work. I'm not like, I didn't come in here with a defensive game plan to explain how the 49ers are going to do this, but they just need to do it.
Yeah, exactly. we call the shots. They just got to execute.
Yeah, they just got to listen to the pod, and they'll be fine. They'll get it.
Yeah, exactly. And Kelsey's also just a different guy in the playoffs. He's averaging 7.7 receptions and 87.3 yards in each of these playoff games, and he has 3 touchdowns in the playoff games as well. This is a crazy stat too. The Chiefs are 38-9 when Kelce catches 7 or more passes. He has not had fewer than 75 yards receiving in any of his past 12 postseason games. And Mahomes this was another nice nugget that Mahomes targets tight ends on 42% on early downs. And I want to talk about that really quickly because it isn't just about Kelce. Like Noah Gray has gotten some involvement too, and he's kind of like this Kelce light where it's like, okay, you're gonna double Kelce, well, here's Noah Gray and he can make a play as well.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how much they're gonna run 12 personnel and have 2 tight ends out there.
Yeah,
I also don't know
sure
how the
we see a lot.
49ers are against 12 personnel, but
I'm sure it's in the breakdown. Yeah.
I mean, but if the 49ers can beat the Lions who do a lot of that, they run a lot of heavy personnel, then it shouldn't be an issue. Obviously, Kelce is another level. Like Laporta is good, but like you look at Kelce, obviously he's on another level. But at the same time, if they can beat a heavy type of personnel like they did against the Lions, and that's their whole game plan, then they should be okay.
So I found the page on the Sumer Sports breakdown. The dark red is the Chiefs personnel, and the lighter red is the 49ers personnel against. So if you're looking at EPA per play in 12 personnel, the Chiefs are in the positive there, and the 49ers are in the negative. So make of that what you will. All right. Now is the time for score predictions and final thoughts. I want to add some final thoughts here because I think it kind of brings everything else home. So I got a bunch of random stats that I think will help us come up with these score predictions. Opponents have scored a touchdown on 1 of 14 drives in the second half against the Chiefs this season. They're a really good second half defense. On the other side, though, the Chiefs offense has not been great in the second half, especially in the postseason. They have scored a touchdown on just 20% of their second half possessions, and they're averaging 4.9 yards per play in the second half compared to 6.1 yards per play in the first half. So the Chiefs kind of start off hot, and I don't know if it's just like halftime adjustments, like they can't really adjust to that. So I'm not really sure, but that's just something that I saw of the Chiefs, that they're not as good at scoring in the second half, but their defense is also better in the second half. So those two might correlate as well, but I wanted to make sure that I brought that up in this one. Another interesting stat. Let's see here. This season, the Chiefs are 3-5 when trailing by 7 or more points outside of the first quarter. And 2 of the 3 wins that they've gotten have come against Jake Browning and Aiden O'Connell. So make of that what you will. The 49ers haven't scored as few as 17 points since week 18. And another nugget, 49ers are 15-1 when Purdy, Samuel, and Christian McCaffrey play. So I like those odds as well.
Wow.
Everyone's talking about Patrick Mahomes. I can't bet against Patrick Mahomes. Well, why can't you bet against a guy like Brock Purdy, who still hasn't lost a playoff game that he started and finished, and he's 15-1 with Debo and CMC? Like, come on, those are some pretty good numbers there.
Yeah.
And I know, just really quickly, I know a lot of people were talking about the turnovers as well, the turnover battle. If the 49ers turn the ball over, like, that's not good. It's like kind of obvious, right? But teams that have won the turnover battle in the Super Bowl have gone 39-7 in the Super Bowl. And teams that have won the turnover battle by 2 or more are 30-3 in the Super Bowl. So, all right. I just wanted to get all those thoughts out.
No, that's good.
What
That's good.
What are you thinking?
I like that was at 15-1 when they play with CMC and Debo. That's crazy. That's like, it's not like, oh, they're 15-1 when, CMC gets over 50 yards and Debo gets more than 5 touches. No, it's literally just playing with them. And they're 15 and he's 15-1. Like, just having them on the field.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
It's just having them around, buddy.
No, so like I was mentioning, I think Christian McCaffrey is going to be the X factor for this game. It is hard to bet against Mahomes though, because it's just like, do the refs want him to win? Like, come on, bro. Like, give these defensive players, like, I don't want to see, whack ass roughing the passer call, like, I don't want to see Andy Reid give the little scuff and then the refs throw the flag. I don't want to see that. I want this to be,
let them play.
Yeah, I want these guys to just play the game. I think Christian McCaffrey is going to be that it factor. He has to play well. I think Debo might go off. I'm not going to talk about my bets or anything. All right, I'm not going to talk about them. But I do have some rushing yards with the over. So I'm ready to get into the prediction.
I like it. So what's your score?
Oh, before that though, I think Purdy is going to have to run with his feet a little bit too. So I think Purdy's going to have to sneak the ball up the middle a little bit when the Chiefs are kind of getting to the outside edges. So just keep that in mind. It's not going to be some Jared Goff over 1.5, and I'm going to cry. So I think the over-under is 12. So
yeah, I think he's definitely going to use his legs in this one,
right,
like we saw against the Lions. Yeah, my internet's starting to get laggy here.
It's like we just hit 1 hour, so let's
close it out. So my score prediction was 23-20, I believe. It's what I've been saying this week. 49ers. I got to go with the 49ers. Like, I have to. What about you?
So yeah, I'm going with the Niners, but I don't think it's gonna be some high scoring game. I think defense is gonna have to play like a huge part, and I think it's gonna, you're gonna think that I'm crazy, but I think it's gonna come down to Jake Moody.
Oh, don't speak that into existence.
No, but I think he's gonna win it for them just because of like how the season has gone. That would be crazy, I know. So that's why I think they're gonna win 17-20. 20-17.
20-17 on a game winner by Jake Moody.
Yeah,
final
crazy.
seconds.
That would be crazy.
I
He
mean,
deserves it.
yeah, like you can't write a better like redemption story, right? Like that's the perfect redemption arc for him. So if he makes it, of course I'd be happy, but I don't know if I can like watch the TV as you know.
Yeah.
But man, this is our last preview of the season. Laurie, thank you so much for joining me for these. You know, it's been a pleasure having you on. And I know a lot of people were, asking about where they can find you. So for the last time, let the people know.
Dude, you guys, the most important place to find me on is Twitter. That's where I'm posting a lot of the videos. That's where I'm posting any of my comments, my opinions, things like that. But I'm posting more videos on YouTube. I'm doing breakdowns. So anytime you guys
Love it.
want to see any breakdowns for players in college, in the NFL, hey, how do you think this guy did in the NFL this season? So I can kind of pull those tapes, and kind of make some little, 5-minute, 7-minute NFL clips. I use the all 22 film. I have a pretty cool telestration type of
Nice.
software that I can use and breaking it down. So yeah, you guys can find me on YouTube. It's Ponytails Talking Pigskins. You can find me. There's my name right there, Laurie Fitzpatrick. So just shoot me a follow, guys. I'm almost at 10,000. I'm at like 10,000
What?
followers. I'm not even there yet. Come on, man. You guys gotta help me
there.
out.
Yeah.
I'm so close.
Help Laurie get to 10K on Twitter. And I have to say, that's an elite channel name for your YouTube. So that's awesome. Get her some subscribers on there as well. But again, thank you, Laurie. And thank you, all of you guys that have tuned into these. They've been awesome. We put a lot of work into them. So glad you guys appreciate it. And make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. Not just mine, but Laurie's as well. And let's go Niners. I mean, I'm so pumped for this Super Bowl game, and hopefully, I'm talking about a win after the game. I'll be going live later Sunday night, so make sure you guys tune in to that. But for now, have a great Friday night, folks. Peace.